Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. One Chicago crossover ratings are in, and the results will surprise you. The One Chicago crossover was a success. It yielded some of the franchise's best ratings of the year, and did so for all 3 hours of its Wednesday night block. This was to be expected, of course. There wasn't anybody who was going to tune in for just one portion of the crossover event, given that it was crucial to watch all 3 to understand the plot. That said, the ratings fluctuated depending on the episode. Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, and Chicago PD drew different levels of interest, according to Nielsen, and the results surprised. Chicago Fire is the most popular show in the franchise, historically, and it kicked off the crossover event in the slot that's usually reserved for Med. Chicago Fire's episode garnered 6.3 million viewers, which was actually the smallest of the entire night. It was still a season high, mind you. The same can be said for Chicago PD, which netted their most watched episode of the season with 6.4 million viewers according to TV Line. These are excellent numbers, and an indicator that the One Chicago franchise is still going strong. The thing that most took us by surprise, though, is the fact that Chicago Med led the charge with an impressive 6.6 million viewers. It's the latest victory for a medical drama that has been killing it in the midst of its 10th season. Chicago Med turned quite a few heads during the One Chicago fall finals. Fire proved to be the victor, but Med was close behind with a 0.4 gap. It was the smallest viewership gap in a whopping 4 seasons, and it proved that Med was becoming one of the franchise's most valuable properties. It would be easy to argue that the One Chicago viewership benefited from fans tuning in once they realized a crossover was airing, but the decrease during Chicago PD indicates that Med was the title that intrigued fans the most. What makes this spike even more interesting is that Med technically had less to do during the event than Fire or PD. There were a handful of characters who saved lives throughout the crossover, but in reality, Med's ensemble took a backseat to Fire and PD when it came to resolving the main conflict. It makes the show's popularity within the framework of the crossover even more impressive. We wouldn't be surprised if Med managed to overtake Fire as the most popular One Chicago show by the end of the season. The One Chicago franchise, a powerful collaboration of interconnected shows, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med, and Chicago Justice, has always been a fan favorite. The blend of action, drama, and intense storytelling has drawn millions of viewers week after week. However, when the announcement was made for the latest One Chicago crossover event, expectations reached an all-time high. Fans were promised the most gripping storylines yet, where the personal and professional lives of their favorite characters would intersect like never before. But as the ratings came in, the results were nothing short of shocking. The crossover, which spanned 3 nights and united characters from all 4 Chicago shows, was hyped up with a massive marketing campaign. The teaser trailers promised jaw-dropping moments, explosive action sequences, and high-stakes drama. Fans were eager to witness the moment where Firehouse 51's heroes would come to the aid of intelligence's finest officers, or when the medical staff of Chicago Med would race against the clock to save the lives of victims from a fire or a crime gone wrong. Viewers could not wait for the chaos to unfold across the Windy City. The setup. It all started with a massive building fire in the heart of Chicago. A chemical spill had caused an explosion that set a nearby building ablaze. Within minutes, Chicago Fire's finest, including the ever-gruff yet lovable Matt Casey, the quick-witted Kelly Severide, and the ever-capable Stella Kidd, were on the scene, battling flames and rescuing civilians. But when the explosion led to a mysterious chain of events involving gang violence and a medical emergency, the team needed help from Chicago PD, and the plot thickened with the arrival of Chicago Med. What viewers didn't expect was the level of tension between characters. Personal dramas came to a head as police officers struggled to maintain order in a scene that was more chaotic than anyone could have imagined. Meanwhile, Chicago Med doctors had to make gut-wrenching decisions, deciding who lived and who didn't. At the same time, the crossover event delivered unexpected team-ups. Characters who rarely interacted found themselves working together to keep Chicago from descending into total chaos. The media buzzed with anticipation. How would the team from Fire and PD handle being thrust into dangerous scenarios alongside each other? What if Med was forced to deal with an overload of patients, many of whom were on the brink of death, with no time for second chances? The surprising ratings. When the ratings came through after the final episode aired, industry insiders were taken aback. The One Chicago crossover event, despite the massive promotion and cross-show interaction, ended up with an unexpected dip in viewership numbers. How could this be? With such high-profile stars and beloved characters, how could the ratings fall short of expectations? One factor in the drop was the unexpected pacing of the event. The first episode of the crossover, while packed with action, was criticized for feeling rushed. Fans, particularly longtime viewers, complained that the character development was sacrificed in favor of more explosive scenes. It was as if the writers were trying to squeeze too much into too little time. Characters like Jay Halstead and Will Halstead, who typically receive significant screen time on their respective shows, found themselves relegated to brief, fleeting moments, leaving viewers wanting more. For many, it felt like they were left with little to grasp onto in terms of emotional connection. Another unexpected challenge was the shift in tone. Chicago Fire, known for its high-stakes fires and explosive moments, had its intensity ramped up, but Chicago Med's medical drama struggled to find a balance. The blend of personal stakes with life-or-death medical decisions felt jarring at times when interspersed with the action-packed chaos from the fire and police sectors. Fans who tuned in for the procedural action felt a disconnection when the focus shifted to operating rooms and the difficult choices doctors faced under pressure. Some fans also felt that the heavy emphasis on action detracted from the camaraderie that had made the One Chicago shows so beloved. The chemistry between characters had always been the heart of the franchise, and this crossover seemed more focused on spectacle than character relationships. Relationships like that of Casey and Brett, which had seen subtle but meaningful development on Chicago Fire, were overshadowed by the urgency of the narrative. And what about the rivalry between Hank Voight and Severide? Instead of evolving, it remained stagnant, not offering the resolution or development that fans had been hoping for. The surprise twist ending of the crossover was another point of contention. While the shocking finale had viewers talking the next day, many felt it was unnecessarily convoluted. The twist, which involved an unexpected betrayal from one of the characters, left fans divided. Some appreciated the surprise and unpredictability, but others felt it was a cheap way to close out the event. The combination of rushed pacing, fragmented character arcs, and an unsatisfying conclusion led to disappointment among a portion of the fanbase. The silver lining. Despite the negative reaction to the pacing and tone of the crossover event, there were still moments that resonated deeply with fans. Characters like Detective Haley Upton, Severide, and Dr. Natalie Manning shone brightly when they were given the space to showcase their leadership, compassion, and strength. In particular, the scenes between the fire and police teams working together to save lives were praised for their intensity. Fans who were looking for action did not go home empty-handed. Moreover, the crossover did offer an opportunity for longtime viewers to revisit some of the most iconic moments and team-ups that defined the One Chicago universe. While not all the characters received the depth they deserved, there were significant moments of growth for the ones who were allowed to shine in the crossover. A new direction? The fallout from the ratings has sparked discussions among showrunners, producers, and fans alike about the future of the One Chicago franchise. Could this marked decline in ratings lead to a shift in how future crossovers are structured? Could there be a renewed focus on balance, making sure that action and character development coexist seamlessly? While many fans are hoping for a return to the intimacy and nuance that made Chicago PD and Chicago Fire so beloved, others are eager for even more high-stakes action and unpredictability in the future. For now, the verdict is still out on whether the One Chicago crossover format has reached its peak. One thing is certain though, the world of Chicago's finest is far from over, and the streets of the Windy City will keep calling for action, drama, and heart-pounding moments.